yeah, like if you're like on your cycle, you're more prone to injury
Oh
and
wow.
stuff like that, and there's not enough research for it, and that's why like no one know I mean it's better now, but like no one knows that much of like what you should be doing at what time and like when you should be going hard, when you should maybe be not going as hard and like stuff like that. So it is
Interesting.
interesting like just the differences and like how there's just really not that much research on like most of the time all the research would have been done on men and then so it's like you can't cross it over to the women, but like we have been for years and that's an issue as well,
Huh.
which is kind
I see.
of
I kind of
interesting.
thought that that was a cop out on the men's part, just trying to, like, how
No,
typical.
yeah, no, totally. But yeah, there is some research now, and they're doing better, especially, I mean, at higher levels, in high school and stuff. I mean, college probably a little bit too, but I know from,
That's cool.
they've done a bunch of stuff with like the, U.S. women's national soccer team
Yeah.
on that because the ACL thing is like so bad. Like all the pro women and like the women that are on the national team, there's like a big ACL issue where like they don't know if it's because of like if they're playing on turf or if they're playing on real grass compared to real grass, or is it like an overtraining thing or like yeah, but it's like a really big issue.
Huh. That's very
It's kind of
interesting.
interesting.
That is interesting, and it kind of opens up another door too. Is wh- what do you think is effective for warm up, and what's your opinion on the whole concept?
Yeah, I think having an effective warm up in place and the athletes actually doing it correctly are two different things. I think for the most part, like in college, let's just say college and up, there's probably effective warm up programs put in place. Are the athletes doing them fully? That's, I mean, up to them, obviously. In youth sports, I would say there's probably not normally an effective warm up put into place. It's probably like, they have them do a dynamic stretch, they go on a jog, they do a dynamic stretch, but are they really doing it effectively? Probably not. And then, they're going into whatever they're doing, which I feel like a lot of times for youth sports, it's kind of like, oh, sometimes it's more like, oh, they don't need it as much, like they're young, when
Right,
in
like
reality,
Bob said.
right, exactly. Like when in reality, yeah, I mean, they're probably not maybe going to be like feeling it as much the next day, but what like stress are they putting on their growing body that needs to be addressed or whatever?
So I wanted to read this, and no, I agree with you fully. And another thing that I think is that I don't think that they have the order of warming up correct. I think that the stretching before
Right,
you get
right,
hot is not intelligent. You know what I mean?
right, yeah.
You got to get hot first. But I was going to read this for people that don't understand, because I'm sure there's parents out there that don't understand what Tommy John surgery is. But so the Tommy John surgery, the torn UCL is replaced with a tendon graft, often harvested elsewhere from the patient's body, usually your thigh, I think, typically the forearm, hamstring, or foot. Recovery from Tommy John surgery takes 12 to 18 months, and the strict rehab protocol gradually restores strength and range of motion in the elbow. While initially associated with professional athletes, Tommy John surgery is increasingly performed on younger athletes, including those in youth sports, decreased due to increased specialization and year-round and higher intensity levels, year-round play. Overuse
Right, right.
Overuse, improper mechanics, and lack of rest and inadequate conditioning, among other factors, contribute to the UCL tears and need for Tommy John surgery. It says repetitive stress on the growing bones and muscles can lead to overuse, such as stress fractures, tendonitis, and growth plate injuries. And that's for ACL and UCL. So they so my daughter, whenever she throws, because she's so small, her middle of her arm, her upper arm gets sore. And I always tell her, I'm like, hey, then take it easy, stop throwing, because she's so little that, like, I mean, that muscle's pulling on that bone so hard, you know?
Right, right, yeah.
And, and that's the other thing. If you don't stretch right and you don't, get warm right, then you don't have the blood flowing through there, right? So I just, I don't know. What's your take on warming up, getting hot, then stretching?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, yeah, and I think this is definitely a thing that, like, especially with, um, like, strength training, whatever, that kind of thing, like, they're always telling you to do, like, a dynamic or some sort of something, like, to get your blood flowing before you do stretch, because if you just stretch cold, it's basically like trying to pull like a cold or like rubber band. Was someone gave me like the analogy of that, where like if you just try to stretch without doing anything, like you're literally trying to stretch, like, I don't know if they said like a frozen rubber band or like a cold rubber band, where like it's not pliable. It's, you know what I mean? So you're not really like helping much. So it definitely, I think, like, you need to get warm before you actually stretch. And also a lot of times, even I think with warming up type stuff, like you don't necessarily have to stretch that much. You need more of like the warm up, like blood flow, get everything moving type thing, more like active, like warm up than like a static stretch. You know what I mean?
And what would you consider warm?
Um, I mean, probably starting to sweat a little bit
Out of
would
breath?
be, yeah, yeah, getting a little sweat and a little like heart rate up type thing. Um, I think too with throwing, I like the thought of I don't know if you've seen like the company High Level Throwing. They're
No.
like, they have if you look them up on Instagram, they have a bunch of stuff, but they're really good. They do overhand throwing mechanics for baseball and softball. And, they came out, I went and, like observed one of the clinics last year. And one of the things they talk about, which I think is really important, is like, we shouldn't be throwing to warm up. We should be warming up to throw. So
Totally.
like, yeah, where like historically, if you're gonna throw, yes, okay, you've stretched before and whatever, and but then you warm up slowly to throw, like, you throw short, which you would do anyways, but like you do nothing else and you warm
Well,
up to
well,
throw instead of,
I don't think assuming that is necessarily. I think that you're right when when you're saying that you need to start slow and start small and start close and then warm
no,
up.
right, yeah, but like not just after you've done 5 arm circles and held your arm behind your head, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
like
But what
like
about the
you should
process
be
of
doing,
throwing though? What should they be doing? Because even some of those I've seen in some of these leagues where where the girls are throwing it or the guys are throwing and the guys actually kind of seem to do it a little different. The guys want to go as far as they can every time. The girls, it seems like
right. Yeah.
they don't really want to. But it's important
Yeah.
to play long toss. Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's important to play long toss, not every single day, but I think, it's more of like a program type thing where you're doing it maybe 2 or 3 times a week or more, but not like back to back.
Right.
But long toss is helpful to like stretch your arm out and kind of get like those muscles working that aren't necessarily working as much if you are throwing like a shorter throw. Um, and like strengthening like your actual arm, as opposed to just trying to throw it like as hard as you can, but kind of more slowly, like strengthening those muscles to get the distance to go farther. And then obviously if you're in shorter distances, that's helping you throw harder and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And you stretch out and you elongate your muscles, right? And it's like
Yes, yes.
the long toss is one of my favorites. I mean, that's if I'm going to pitch, that's the first thing I'm gonna make sure I play long toss before I pitch because I don't feel stretched if I don't.
Right, yeah.
The and what about as a pitcher for softball? Since it's underhand, I've heard rumors that it's because it's a natural motion, it's not as bad for you. I don't know if I believe that fully. Um,
Yeah, I think it's not quite as hard on your arm as throwing overhand. But I think it's obviously not, there's still injury issues. There's still definitely overuse issues, which I think the overuse issues also really come into play because it's like, oh, it's easier on your arm. Like, you can pitch this whole tournament. You can pitch
That was what I was going to ask. I was going to
all
say,
3 games today,
is there
like
a 5-day
whatever
schedule
it
like
is.
there is for overhand?
No, 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 no. It's not the same.
Huh.
It's, you have like 3 or 4 pitchers, and it's more like you'll have a couple starters and they'll like switch off or however, or the same girl will start every game and then that's like someone will come in, it's
Oh,
way more volume than overhand. But also because you can. I mean, you can. It is, it's not like you're throwing 100 pitches overhand 3 days in a row. I mean, that's like probably almost impossible. Like you can do it. I mean, it isn't, it is easier on your arm in that way where, I mean, it's not like they're not always killing themselves to do that. Like you can throw 2 games in a row and be okay. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Obviously
totally.
you have to be in shape and your arm has to be in shape. So that's another story, especially with the younger kids.
And that
Like
that's
I
a big
think,
thing. Sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think in college, like hopefully they're, conditioned and their arms are obviously stronger and, they're on certain programs and whatnot. So it's a little bit different than, throwing a 10-year-old out there for 3 games in a row or, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That the one that cracks me up is when it's like that you have kids that. Well, actually, one time there was a girl pitching and she was doing great, but after she threw a pitch, she went, "Ow!" and you could see physically on her face that it hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so instantly I was like, okay, they're gonna go out there and talk to her, and they didn't. And I just kind of walked over there and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't
Yeah.
see that? And he goes, she does that all the time. And
Great.
and I went, okay, like that's not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the other thing. You got to pay attention. You know what I mean? Like you got to really. These kids aren't going to tell you, especially when they're
No,
young.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
They're never going to
Totally.
tell you when their arm hurts ever. You know, and and some of them do, and those, I respect it. I respect that, but they think it's a tough thing, and it's not. It's not at all about being
No,
tough.
right. Yeah, exactly. Especially, for the youth kids. Like when I have kids that I'm giving lessons to that, something hurts or they get hurt or whatever, like I'm always like, rest, figure it out. Like it's not worth you hurting your arm forever to go to this stupid, 12U tournament or what, or even a high school game or something. You know what I mean? Like it's like not that big of a deal to miss whatever you're missing right now to make sure your whatever's hurt is okay for the future.
Right? You can still go through the practice, going through the motions, doing feet work.
Yeah, or do nothing, whatever. Like it doesn't matter right now. It matters if you're trying to play later. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
they get so caught up in this whatever they're doing that honestly doesn't even matter. Which is good. I mean, I wouldn't want them to not want to play,
No, I feel you. I 100% agree with you on that.
but
And
just hope they're getting the like guidance to not try to like
push through it.
play to not try to play hurt when it's not necessary. You know what I mean?
Right. There's a winning mentality, and then there's a losing mentality,
Right.
and that's
And then
that's a
there's like
losing
that's
mentality.
stupid.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, at that point you are a loser. The Yeah, I don't understand that, honestly. I mean, the arm thing is like, obviously it's always been, and I know I say it all the time and it's redundant, but the arm thing is the most important one to me because I feel like if you can't throw, you're not going to want to play. I mean, that's
No,
everybody.
yeah.
And so it just amazes me that people don't pay more attention to it. The one thing that I liked that I found that worked for me really well, but it got stolen was the Bauer, the wand, like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The
the
little
shoulder
like
thing.
the thing that like wiggles.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, because you do it if you do it
I've
right.
never used that, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Because if you do it right, it gets your shoulder, the blood going in your shoulder, and you can
Yeah,
feel. I mean, you feel that you get hot. You feel the difference, and you can. And it's just you go to throw, and you're like, holy crap, I feel great, you know. And
right.
so I loved that thing. I mean, I swore by it. I actually think he's really smart. He's just also not very smart, you know.
Yeah.
Life-wise, he's kind of an idiot, but
Yeah.
but
But no, yeah, he did some good stuff that people weren't doing.
yeah,
That
and
more people are doing now, but
uh, yeah, exactly. And so, if we can learn anything from him, it's just the good stuff. But the what about? Okay, here's a big one: field maintenance. And what kind of things have you run into that can cause injury on the field?
um one sometimes like especially for pitchers. So like obviously in softball there's no like actual mound, so it's just like the rubber on the ground. But sometimes it's either like all like where the rubber meets the ground, it's either like all dug out or there's like huge holes where like the pitcher has drug her foot. Um, and cause like, so every time like you throw underhand, they like drag their back foot. So it creates like a little kind of like ravine in the dirt. And there it can get bad where like if that's not taken care of on the mound and like put like clay in it and tamp it down and all that stuff, it kind of creates like this really bad like little crevice of like a line where like they have dragged their foot and or where the rubber meets the dirt, like there's a huge like it's sunken in or there's like a huge hole there where then it's like really steep when you put your foot on it as opposed to like I mean you want a little bit to push off on but like not like a huge hole.
Right.
um so I think that's probably a pretty bad one where if they're not taking care of the field fully and like filling those holes each time, it's becoming an issue like game after game of like kind of just getting deeper and deeper and then making it not great for the next person who's using it kind of thing.
Right. I mean,
Um,
it can't be easy to throw when your back foot catches on a ledge and
right, yeah,
you're
like if
falling.
that's too steep, yeah. I think they like it to be like a little bit of a thing so they can push off of it, but not like a huge hole, obviously.
Right. And I mean, the same thing
Um,
happens on baseball mounds too. It's the same thing
right,
there.
yeah,
You
because
get,
you would dig out a little bit, like
oh, I hate
where
when
the
people
rubber meets.
dig. I hate when people dig. But yeah,
But like where your foot goes, like if you're in the stretch, you would dig out a little bit.
right. You need something to push off of is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So kind of
100%.
similar, um, where they'll kind of dig it out a little bit, but then it can create like a big hole just from, pitch after pitch, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one. Just really bad grass, like potholes or, like, divots in the grass. That kind of stuff. Really bad lip,
Sprinkler
like,
holes.
yeah, sprinkler holes, like a super bad lip from like dirt on the infield to the outfield.
Oh, like maybe if you drag in one direction every time and then stop in the other
Yeah.
every single time.
That could
Yeah.
be a bad one. Um, I'm trying to think. I mean, the outfield, like, yeah, the holes in the outfield are just like gopher holes or, you know what I mean? Like stuff that hasn't been fully, like the grass is not growing correctly or whatever, anything like that where you can roll your ankle or the ball could, go in the hole and fly in the air or whatever, anything like that.
What about if you haven't dragged the field with
Yeah, I
spikes
was just
or
gonna say then infield wise
concrete?
probably, yeah, concrete or like super sandy, are both bad.
Yep.
Um, I think, well, I mean, I think we may have even talked about this before, but like they're definitely not probably dragging the fields between every single game,
Which they
and
should.
that, which they should.
Yeah.
Um, especially depending on the dirt. I mean, how like chopped up can the dirt get? Is it really, kind of sandy and getting chopped up easy, or is it a little harder and not, getting as bad, but still probably needs to be at least raked,
Well, yeah,
with a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
between.
yeah, just to give them, so that they don't have some bad hops.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
because that's why and I like kind of like the girls wear the masks too. Like if I would have wore those with baseball, I would have felt a lot. I mean, obviously I didn't, and it's fine. But I'm saying like it's got to make you feel a little more comfortable, right? At times, but the
Yeah.
especially but at fields that I've seen, it's like no wonder they wear them.
No.
I would too. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh,
uh, the,
there's one too many masks these days, but yes.
but I just yeah, but no, I get that. But I
But
mean, when
yeah.
you're playing on
I mean,
concrete
yeah,
that
you can
looks like
just stick
dirt,
your face in the ball.
when your concrete looks like dirt, and
Yeah.
and but, hey, one time I saw that the home plate it would like the top film of it or whatnot had been worn down, and it became like this. I swear it was like Teflon, so people would hit it and they go, "Hmm," and just
Oh, yeah. Yes, I know what you mean. I've seen that before.
oh man, and it was I'm not gonna say where it was, but I was like, oh my God, this is not good, and it was so dangerous. I ended up telling the umpire, I was like, hey, look, why don't you just tell them to step near it and you call it because
Yeah.
someone's gonna break their neck or something,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's a pretty bad one.
Another thing too is the like batter's boxes where it's usually the right-handed batter's box like gets huge like divots in it because everyone's standing in the same spot and then they don't fix that and you're like literally standing in two like
Holes.
crevices and your feet aren't even like touching the ground correctly.
Yeah, which I've always wondered too is when you get a really bad one of those, right? If it's real bad, say it's 3 inches, right?
Right.
Does the strike zone move with you?
Yeah, yeah, I guess.
Because one time I was umpiring and the holes were so bad it was like 5 inches, I swear. And so
Wow,
I
that's
started calling the
cool.
strike at where the batter was, you know what I mean? Not where the plate is because the batter's lower
Well,
than the
yeah,
plate.
right,
And
right.
parents were getting pissed because they were like, that's so low. And I was like, no, it's really not though, because like,
Yeah, they're like sunken in the ground.
yeah. And so I was like, that's a disadvantage to the pitcher. And so anyway, people were not happy about that. But then after the game, I put a board across it and I was like, look,
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
uh, and so I think they fixed that. But so what
Yeah,
do
I'm
you
trying
think?
to think.
What?
No, I was just trying to think of other like hazards, but
Okay,
those are
how
all
about
pretty good
the
ones.
one that we haven't talked about that I've always want to talk about? What's a proper throwing mechanic and where do you throw from?
Yeah, so
It's my favorite.
uh a lot of people still teach the like point the ball backwards, a whole big thing like come through. I'm more of a like pull the elbow back, hand on top of the ball, and like yes, your arm's gonna work back, but we're gonna more so throw from there than go like backwards to forwards. Um, that goes back to the high level throwing mechanics too. That like I'm on par with all of their stuff. I really like their drills and like everything that they teach and like how they go about it because there's like so much warm up and everything before you even throw and like so many drills that don't even necessarily involve actually throwing to like work on the mechanics. So I found that good. I've used like a lot of their drills with some of my clients and stuff and I've found it really helpful and like easy for them to feel it a little bit better. But I think the throwing mechanics, like we've said, are so important and not like not a lot, probably most of like youth coaches probably aren't teaching it super correctly.
How about like not even close?
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's anyway. I saw this joke. It said, so the rec league and the high school coach were watching the trials for the high school team together. And there's specifically one star student or one star athlete from the rec league. And eventually the high school coach walks over to the kid, that certain kid, and starts telling him something or her. And the rec league coach kind of gets curious because everything goes, so, well, he says, what was that? And the high school coach goes, I know exactly. Or something like that. And I was like, dude, straight up, you know what I mean? It was like, he's like, yeah, exactly. What was that? And so, oh yeah, there's Dylan. What's up, Dylan?
Uh,
How you doing, man?
Sorry, your pitching motions. Go ahead.
The what?
The pitching motion and stuff.
Oh,
Sorry to
you were
interrupt.
listening the whole time, huh?
Yeah, I tried to talk about the field topic, and I guess you guys didn't hear me, so I
Yeah, you
hung
got a
up and
call.
called back in.
Yeah, you didn't call. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. I did just see that. I didn't even notice that. So what were you saying then? Fill it in.
Oh, so the reason fields get so hard that I've learned is because of all the turfus that to dry out the fields during the
Oh, less
wet
clay.
wet season. Yeah, that that stuff to dry out the fields mixes with the dirt and the clay and makes it harder in the summertime.
Got it.
And some
People
people
love
even
to
use
throw that
kitty
on
litter.
too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they do.
and kitty litter works as well for that.
Yeah. So does sawdust, and then it's soft and it goes away.
That's a good one. I never knew that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
sawdust is the stuff, man, because it'll also soak up into the mud, and so you can actually just pick it up. It'll clump, and you just like kitty litter. And anyway, but yeah, that's a good one. And it makes it floor soft. It's like mulch. So, um, what uh, what about what's the throwing motion thing? What do you want to say on that?
Well, I thought it was interesting hearing Haley describe softball. I really have never been taught how to throw softball properly. So you got to show me that one day, Haley. Um,
It's the
but
same as
just
a baseball.
Yeah, it's just heavier and harder.
It's
well,
just
I mean
bigger.
the underhanding pitching.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't even try to
Well,
pretend that for my daughter. I'm like, nope.
just a basic kind of getting the ball back behind your head, pointed away from you, or this is how I teach the kids, that my dad always taught. Like you're placing the ball on a shelf of a bookshelf, and then when you rotate, the elbow is above the shoulder, and then the ball and hand are on the outside part of your elbow.
And hand behind it.
Yeah, and then hand right behind the baseball. Get all the momentum through the baseball.
I always tell the kids, I say, hey, look, imagine the person you really, really like. I say, write your number on the ball, and they're at second base. I said, show them your number before you throw the ball. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah.
And depending on the maturity of the kid, it's funny and they get it or they don't. But you know, yeah, that's the one that I would use. It's like, I've got to be able to read it because if you're just like and you don't really show me it, then you're not getting back. But what about the one where you can go down to your leg, like down, straight down, almost like Lincecum used to? You know what I mean? I also believe that one works pretty well.
Cut out. I'm back.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, I kind of think that the one that when it goes down, say it goes down to toward your foot, I guess you'd say, and then almost like Juan Marichal, you know what I mean? I believe that one works pretty well too. The one that I don't like is, and unless you're a catcher, is straight to your ear.
Right. Yeah, like a football throw.
Yeah,
It only works for
when you're a
catchers.
catcher, it's important.
Yeah. One thing I do have to add on this is the thing I've noticed is all the kids are gripping the ball way too hard.
Yep.
They're squeezing the ball way too hard, which adds tension in the elbow. So I pull the ball out of their hand. I have them grip it, and then I pull the ball. Then I grip it, and I have them pull the ball out of my hand. And I tell them it's like holding an egg. So nice and easy. I don't need to crush it.
Well, there's a good one. What about when on a bat, Haley or Dylan?
Yeah.
Um, I see a lot of kids say they're just white knuckling it, but their
Yeah,
hands
I
are
know.
gorillaed around it. You know, like they're really tight and the wrong knuckles are lined up. And I always tell them, I say, put your finger into your palm and try to pull your finger out, and you can, right? And then I was like, put your finger into your fingers and wrap them around and try to pull, and you can't. And I'm like, but that's where you need to hold the bat. You know what I mean? Is in your fingers. And what's your take on that?
No, yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times, like you said, it's like too deep in their palm and they're really like squeezing the life out of it. And then kind of, I mean, the same, like Dylan was just saying with the throwing, like it tenses you up in like the wrong places and then you're all muscled up and not like loose enough to swing, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I think for me, yeah, like the knuckles lined up thing, I'm normally like, I don't care if they're a little bit off, but they need to be pretty close to that like knuckles lined up area. I mean, I feel like when I hit, mine weren't perfectly lined up. It's just more like I tell them if it feels a little better for them to be like a little bit off, I don't care as long as they're not like wrapping around like you were saying where it's like hindering their ability to move their arms correctly.
Yeah, and then I teach knocking knuckles. Use your knocking knuckles, the
Yeah,
knuckles
yeah.
you would knock on the door to line those up.
I say that too. Not your
Yeah,
punching
me
knuckles.
too. Me too.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, not
Or
your pushing
universal.
knuckles.
Um, yeah. I mean, you know, it's amazing though how many of them don't know that. Actually, it's amazing how many kids don't know a lot of the basic, simple things, but they know a lot of the other stuff really well. Like they know the stats, they know the trajectories, they know the spins, they know like all these data filled things and statistics and things like that, but then they don't know like the basic physical fundamental is,
Like
I mean, would
squish
you
the
agree?
bug.
Like squish the bug, or you don't have to fly your hips all the way. You just have to, you know, you're not turning them all the way around to, you know, like spinning. You're just boom, you know.
Hips and hands.
Yeah, I'm a you don't want to squish the bug
Yeah.
because you're just rotating and not actually using your body. So I hate when youth coaches are telling them to squish the bug because a lot of times they're actually like taking out their natural movements that are actually better than that.
It opens them up a little bit.
But you can squish a bug. Yeah, I mean, you just want to get like on the inside of your big toe, so you're actually driving onto the inside of that big toe before like the back foot comes through. You don't just want to rotate the back foot through because that's just spinning and not actually driving anything.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can feel that.
It
Yeah,
just
I've heard
looks
that's kind.
like it just looks like you squished the bug. That's why it became a thing. But then when we actually look at video, no high level hitters squishing the bug. They're driving onto that inside toe and then coming through.
Totally.
And their inside knee is getting
Yeah,
inside their
yeah.
foot. Yep.
Ooh.
That's
Now,
another
how do
thing.
you,
Speaking about that knee, if you ever watch Major League pitchers, watch how their back leg, all their knees point down and drive towards the target.
Right. Yeah, it's really a
Most of them.
similar move to hitting too, especially
it
that
is,
backside.
it is,
Right.
it is, and something that what's one of the best ways you guys that someone can practice that a medicine ball, throwing it against the wall,
Mhm. Yeah,
you know.
A way you can practice the back foot thing is like if you put an empty bucket behind your foot and you squish the bug, you're gonna knock it over. If you put an empty bucket behind your foot and you drive onto that toe and then come through, you should clear that bucket like a little bit, if that makes sense.
Clear it how? What do you mean?
as in like you wouldn't hit it. You would drive onto that inside toe. Your foot can come through, but you shouldn't hit the bucket because your heel's not going back first. Basically, the sequence should be hip, knee, heel peels up last. Squish the bug is heel goes first, heel, knee, hip. See what I'm saying?
Yep. And what about keeping a line from shoulder to foot through knee? You know, keeping that back end all lined up square so that you're not out on your front foot.
Yeah, keeping that backside all stacked. Yep.
All right, but we're getting away from the injury thing here.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh, but it's okay. So one of the things that I'm hoping that this podcast will do, and so if you guys have anything at all to add, please just add it, is I'm hoping that we can get the attention of some of the medical professional individuals, or even just, you know, organizations that are involved in you know, kids' health and whatnot, because really that's our main goal, is to make sure that kids are being taught in a way that is safe and effective and produces longevity, as well as productivity. And then after that, obviously, it's within the authenticity of the game, or the validity of the game. But what else? I mean, is there anything else that you guys would add? What about overuse? What about working someone too hard?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think there's definitely an overuse issue in youth softball with pitchers throwing too much for the most part. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. Especially when they're either not like fully developed, like body and strength wise. They haven't, you know, probably done any. I mean, well, hopefully they've started to do something, but especially the young ones haven't done much, you know, like strength training and stuff, obviously, if they're, you know, still super young. Or they haven't been taught the correct way to do it, and now they're pitching, you know, doing God knows what, and doing, you know, something weird to their arm that because they're doing it incorrectly, or stuff like that as well. But yeah, I definitely think overuse is an issue. I think for baseball, I mean, in Little League and stuff, they've definitely made strides to cut back on that with the like pitching rules and stuff. Like I know when I played, they weren't as strict as they are now, like for Little League baseball.
What about, well, I think that we're going to get into some controversy here, but, and I agree with you on the Little League has made strides that are awesome. What about, Dylan, what's your take on kids trying to throw 100 miles an hour? What do you think is better? Is it best to try to throw as hard as you can, or is it best to have better mechanics?
Location, location, location. Um, yeah, mechanics are really, really important. If you have good mechanics and work at it, I would actually be able to tap into the highest speeds they can get. But just like Greg Maddux, he located the ball and was only throwing in the mid 80s and low 90s, and he'd blow it by players. It's about pitching's about making the batter uncomfortable, changing their eye level and making them off balance by changing speeds. There was a kid that pitched a tall, lanky left-hander for American Canyon that pitched the other day against Casa Grande, and he would get ahead, strike one, and locate his fastball on either side of the plate and flip over a breaking ball, and the hitters were making him look like he was throwing 95. They were just so off balance, and you could see the pattern, and he was just locating his fastball, and the hitters were just baffled. And you know, he was throwing mid 70s maybe. So
Oh, that's cool though. So he had good off speeds too to throw him off balance, huh?
yeah, I mean, if I was to reinvent my career, I would work on a changeup. Unfortunately, it's such a scary pitch, not feeling comfortable laying it up there, kind of feeling, and just like I thought it was going to tee it off on.
Yeah, confidence is a huge thing in a pitcher. That's actually one thing that you can that actually is injury related that you wouldn't believe is injury related is confidence, right? I mean, if you think about it, if a pitcher goes up to pitch or even a batter goes up to bat and they're scared or they're afraid that they're not going to do well enough, but they don't know how good they can actually do, you're gonna hold back, right? Which means you're gonna swing at the last second, and that could potentially like just try to burp that swing in, or you try to overthrow because you think you can't throw hard enough, or you know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah, you're tensing up or, any of that. Yeah, totally.
um, but when it comes to the pitching thing, Dylan is what my you said you gotta keep him off balance or whatever. If you're a pitcher, you should have the mentality where that batter is like it's like your puppet, and you want to like just absolutely disgruntle his or her ability to know what you're gonna throw. I love messing with like if stepping out and taking a walk, just to mess with them and stuff like that. Like I feel like that's vital if you're gonna be a pitcher. You got to have that mentality. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the stepping out thing is going to be going away because in college now that's an offensive timeout, and they only get three of those a game.
Yeah, I hate that rule. But
And then like even the last couple of days, um, batters once the pitcher comes set, he's got like 3 or 5 seconds um, before I can instantly call timeout for the batter. And high school, they're having a hard time adjusting because of just how we've always been taught to, hey, step out, disrupt the pitcher's rhythm. Yeah, with the pitch clock, I think that rhythm goes in the favor of the pitcher now.
oh,
Like
I
in the
don't.
start of last spring training, they
I
were
would
holding the
disagree.
ball, holding the ball. Yeah,
I would. Sorry, go ahead. I would totally disagree. But
no, I was done.
oh, sorry. Well, I'm just saying, like, if the batter steps out on me, I'm gonna let him, and then I'm gonna step out on my own and go, no, 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 you don't tell me when to throw. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
screw that, and I'll take a long time, and then I'll get in there, and then I'll speed pitch, then I'll quick pitch him and throw a curveball at his head and let it drop back down at his feet. But that was just me. But what do you Haley? Softball's a little faster pace, huh?
Yeah, totally. I was gonna say with the pitch clock, I've experienced the pitch clock for softball wise, like when I was playing internationally. And I think it for softball for sure, it probably disrupts the pitcher more than it does the hitter because like the pitcher has to get the ball, like get on the rubber and like basically get the sign and get ready to go. Like there's no time to like walk
Think.
around the circle, like there's not as much time to like take your time to get like on the rubber and get your sign. So like for that, I think it was definitely it, I mean, if you let it, obviously, but I think it had the potential to kind of disrupt the pitcher more than the hitter on the like softball wise.
yeah, and I totally agree with that. That pitchers can't walk around the mound, get their thoughts in order,
Right,
think
right.
about what pitch they're gonna to kind of game plan or get them out of a funk. Um, yeah, you're right on that. I
But if it
totally agree
is
on this.
if it is a pitcher, that works fast, it could baseball or softball, it could be better for them where they're just the kind of guy or girl that gets the ball, gets on the rubber and just goes. Like then that's probably more helpful for them because then the hitter doesn't have the time, like you were saying, to step out or whatever, call
Right.
time or all that.
I wonder if there's going to be any data that shows that it could actually create. I wonder if there's going to be any damage to arms due to the constant like quicker. Do you think that there's going to be a difference? I mean, I know that when I'm pitching, sometimes I take that extra 10 seconds just because I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? Kind of get the blood back, um, if especially if it's late in the game. But like, do you think that will have a difference or make a difference?
I don't know. I didn't really think about that, but possibly, I guess. I mean, I don't know if it would be enough to make a big difference, but who knows? I'm not sure. That's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Because I mean, there's
I don't
times
know.
where you got to shake your arm out, sometimes, or especially when you get older, shouldn't do that though, kids. You should just tell someone.
Yeah.
But I'm talking when you're 33 and trying to play college. But but what do you think though?
Gosh, that would be interesting. I'd love to see how they quantify that if they can ever
Yeah.
figure it out. But I do have a theory on why uh, kids' arms today can't throw as many as like our parents. Kids don't throw rocks anymore. Like they've got the phone, they've got TV.
Straight
What
up,
our parents have,
straight up,
they had to go play outside.
and cut wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, split wood and carry water.
No, the not playing outside thing is definitely a big issue with a lot of all of it. With the throwing mechanics, with everything.
Yeah,
Not
stick
if you're
ball has gone away.
stickball,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, wiffle
football in the
ball.
street.
I mean, I equate a lot of my like pure like just ability to play baseball or softball to me playing outside.
100%,
Honestly,
a hundred
like
percent.
trying to make like top 10 plays, like doing stupid stuff like that. Like, I mean, that was half the, I mean, I wasn't taking lessons until I was in high school.
Yeah,
And
lessons
not
were
until I
everyday
was,
life.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wish kids would play outside more, which I think obviously a lot of people do, but I
I
definitely
like
think
that.
that's a big difference.
Recreating top 10 plays. That's a great
Yeah,
one, Haley.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
What
oh
about
my,
what about trying
yeah.
to catch the ball inbounds? You're playing baseball and you're like, go, and you try to catch before the curb.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, anything like that. Just, I mean, the whole time you're throwing, you're catching, you're hitting, like, without thinking about it, obviously. But, I mean, were you doing it perfectly correctly? Probably not. But I definitely think that's, that was part of the, like, ability to make adjustments and, you know, to make certain movements and not be, I find that a lot of the kids today, like, because they've taken lessons from when they're, you know, 8 or 10, like they're just very robotic. Like, yeah, they can do the movements, but do they know like can they do them? Can they change it if they need to? Like if they need to make a different play or if they need to, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of interesting.
There's one of the houses I lived in. There we had a trampoline in the backyard, but right ahead of the house was a street, like a cross street, so it was a T. And so I used to have the kids on the trampoline. And I'd go, how many houses do you think I can go? And I'd take a football and I'd go like 3 houses down the street and I'd throw it into the trampoline over the house. You know what I mean? And then 4 houses and they're down the
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
Thought it was the coolest thing in the world, right? And I was like, this is fun. I was like, that's how you get that is doing that every day. Like you said, that builds that arm strength. You don't even realize you're doing it because you're having fun.
No, right, totally, yeah.
Um, do you guys ever
Hey
warm
guys,
up with,
sorry to interrupt. I I've got to get going. I'm heading to Laney College right now.
oh yeah, have fun on the turf.
Thanks. Appreciate
I
it.
love that field actually, but
Yeah, the lights were a little different. And they need to be
yeah,
a little taller. I got straight line on a play in the bottom of the eighth inning last time I was there. But good talking to you. Sorry about calling in late
you
and
two
leaving early. But
tell the coach,
No,
I
it's all
forget his
good.
name, but tell the head coach I said what's up. He'll remember me if you just say Napa or the college assistant.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
Fernando
there.
is the
Yep, that's
oh
who.
Derek.
Yep.
Oh, it's
No,
Mendocino at
No,
Laney.
no, for Laney.
Okay, Fernando.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye. Later.
Well, so I mean, I think we covered a lot of the medical stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
what about,
Yeah, I think
well,
that was good.
we did all the upper extremities though. You had started beginning talking about, people not paying attention to the fact that hormones do have something to do with it and that, girls can be different and or are different and what I mean, what would be some things that you would say to try to do or look out for or
I don't know if I am qualified to
Okay.
say.
That's fair.
I don't know. I think
I mean, even
there
just with
definitely needs,
good.
I think it's something where one, there needs to be more research on it. Two, um, yeah, it's like a lot that has to be like monitored and figured out. So I don't really know, but I do think that, like, just as we were saying in general, like warming up needs to be something that's actually, it's not just to go through the motions thing. You know what I mean? Like warming up is part of the workout, or warming up is part of like the practice, or, you know, whatever you're doing, as opposed to like, oh, it's just kind of what we do before we kind of go through the motions and then, you know, we get to our practice or our workout or whatever it is.
Right. One thing I've noticed is a lot of girls have arms that, like, when they straighten their arm, their elbow will go the other direction.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
I have no idea.
God,
Double jointed?
it's so weird to me out, man. But it's cool. But
Or
I've always
just like
wondered,
really
does it,
flexible?
yeah, and flexibility is huge. That's a good one. Flexibility is huge with ligaments and with
Yeah.
being able to throw for a
I
long
am
time.
not a flexible person, so that was a big issue for me. My college coach made me take yoga my senior year as a elective
Really?
because I was so inflexible. Yeah,
Yeah, flexibility, that was like one of my, that was good for me because I'm not
but
a
that's a
flexible.
really good one because I mean, even now, like outside of college, obviously, I've definitely worked on it way more and been able to like kind of stay at a pretty good. I mean, I think I could. I try to stretch quite a bit, but I could probably still stretch more. But just in general, yeah, like stretching and, you know, cooling down after the workout or the practice or whatever is also so important, where like, I mean, that gets skipped almost probably 99% of the time,
Are you
especially
talking
in
about
youth
like not
sports.
just stopping cold turkey or what?
Right, yeah, like doing some sort of cool down, some sort of stretch at the end, something like, instead of just, yeah, just like stopping and going home.
Oh, that's a good one. What about when you throw? I mean, do girls run poles when they're
Yeah,
pitchers?
yeah, pitchers do, yeah.
Do you know or what's the point of that?
I think just cardio
Okay.
mostly.
Yeah, I think, and then I think also
Or it could also be a cool down warm up type deal.
yeah, and it's a blood flow thing too. It gets the blood out of your arms
Yeah, yeah,
into your
yeah.
legs. And that's important too because that's where all your inflammation comes from, right? It's just like elevation, same concept. The
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is, I mean, I'm also still a firm believer in icing. I mean, I have the actual machine, not the game ready one that's like $1 million, but a cheap
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that's made from a ice chest. And but but they work amazing, and it's important, you know. And I used to take a lot of Motrin during the game, which was, you know, I found out later was bad for my stomach and liver. But
Yeah, that's the ibuprofen is everyone's taking ibuprofen. Well, I'm allergic, so I'm not, but everyone
oh,
else
are you?
is.
See,
Yeah.
I'm allergic to Vicodin and all that stuff. So
Okay, yeah.
I've never
I'm
taken a pain
allergic
killer in my
to
life.
ibuprofen, so I can't take anything that helps like inflammation because I can only take Tylenol, which doesn't
Oh
even work.
wow, that sucks.
So yeah.
But that sucks, man. Yeah, and IVs are a very bad. Again, though, we not, you know, you shouldn't have to take IVs all the time.
No, no, correct. Correct.
um, but there's just a lot of things that you can do. There's also some herbs that are natural that you can use that'll help with it too. So,
Oh
fish,
yeah,
I
I'm
think the
sure.
salmon and fish is
Yeah,
good
like
for
fish
inflammation.
oil and yeah, yeah.
Um, but anyway, uh, you know what else is really good for inflammation is turmeric.
Mm.
turmeric's like
Yeah.
a godsend to inflammation. So, um, I mean, I think we pretty much touched on all of it.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, that was pretty good.
What, I mean, I think that if we could each maybe kind of touch in on how important it is for coaches to pay attention to certain aspects, maybe, and then we could probably call it there.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess I'll go first. Is uh, coaches, if you don't know the proper way to throw the ball, or you even think you're unsure, check out what Haley was talking about. What's it called?
yeah. High level throwing.
High level throwing. Check out some old videos.
HLT.
HLT.com.
It might be highlevelthrowing.com, but if you just look it up online, it would come up, high level throwing. And also on Instagram, and like they're on all social media.
Another good one is if your kid is short arming it, you can kneel in front of them, same knee up on each one, your opposite. So just like you're throwing your left foot, if it's your right-handed, your right foot if you're left-handed, and you just kneel in front of each other and try to high five as high as you can with your hands, in just a little bit, and and then go in a full motion and high five as hard as you can every time, and go around, go around, go around, and then just tell them stand up and do the same thing when you throw the ball. You know, that's a good one. I always felt like when people short arm it, if I do that with them a couple times, they kind of get the concept.
Right, yeah.
Um, a fun one is one time I took my kid into a room, and we put up blankets everywhere, and so we made like a square, right? And it was like a fort, and I took a paint can, and I said, all right, now I want you to go through your throwing motion, and see where their lines are. And so they would make lines on the blanket, and then we'd step out because the fumes, and we'd go back in. And we do it again.
That's a funny one though.
But it's cool because then you make all these dope designs on the blanket, right? But you get the concept of like the full circle. Because if you go straight to your ear, it's just a dot above you, and then all of a sudden, you know,
Right.
it's pretty fun actually. I was like trying to think of anything I could, being broken, trying to have fun at the same time, and it was a good one.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, another good one too is one time we painted the wall. We painted the wall with glow in the dark ink or with paint, and then we put a camera, like a flash thing, in front of it, right? And I had her do all of her stances, and then I took pictures and it leave the shadow, so she could
Oh, that's
see,
cool. Yeah.
her actual form, and what it looked like.
That's super cool.
Um, what but she doesn't like to listen to me anymore, so that's why I'm not doing it. That the time has finally come. So, but okay, yeah. I mean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think just off of that, I mean, just how important just the mechanics of, whatever the move is, like trying to somehow at least getting at least the basics of, some of the proper mechanics for throwing, for fielding, for hitting, whatever it is. But, like you said, if you're a coach and you don't know, like that's fine, but there has to be some sort of research done, or, reach out to someone who may know more than you, or, kind of try to figure it out, and, try to get these kids in positions that are actually helping them and not hurting them. I think it's just really important, which, might be you have to, hire someone to come out to the practice or do this or that. I mean, like I've said before, I've done that for multiple, little rec ball teams, smaller travel ball teams, younger travel ball teams, whatever it is, like, and then the coaches have these drills that they can keep using, even if they don't, understand it fully or fully know the whole thing. They at least have something that they can, mimic, and then, show the kids and kind of keep working the same drills with the kids. And then just on to the, warm up stuff. I think just kind of same thing with that. It's not, something to skip. We're always going to do our warm up before we get into our practice or our workout or whatever it is. and making sure, especially the kids at the younger age, like that it's important. We're not just doing like, 10 arm circles and 5 high knees. Like each move that we're doing is for a purpose, and that's to help you get warm and ready to go for the rest of the movements that you're going to be doing. So I think that's really important too, to like, instill in them at a young age, so then they understand as they get older that this is only going to be more and more helpful, as they get older and continue to play, especially if they want to keep playing for a long time. So I think both those things, that we already touched on, but both of those things are super, super important.
No, yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I think that was well said. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the other thing is too is ego has no place in being a coach.
Right,
So,
yeah, especially like no one's expecting the random dad to know anything. You know what I mean? It's like it's fine that you don't know, and it's great that you're trying to help, but like we need you to help in a good way.
right, exactly. And don't be offended when someone that knows something comes up
Right,
and tells you
right,
something.
yeah. I mean, it's totally not. It's just about getting the kids in doing proper things than anything else.
Ooh, I have one last thing to add.
Okay.
All right, batting practice. Do you ever have your pitcher throw off speeds to your batters during batting practice?
Would
And
this be batting practice?
what's that?
Like, would this be like batting practice, like at practice, or like before the game, or either?
So this is at practice. This is well, I guess for this let's say it's your best pitcher throwing to, the younger kids.
Okay. Um, like the best pitcher on the team is throwing to her own team.
Yes,
Okay, and this is like not live at bats. This is like,
this is just batting practice.
okay. It depends. I'm not against it. I think it kind of depends what you're doing. Is she just kind of doing a circle and kind of throwing it in there, not
No, 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 no.
like,
I mean like pitching, but in a to a kid that, let's say, okay, for example, let's say you have one of your not as uh, uh, not as able batters yet. They're still, you're learning, right?
okay, yes,
The pitcher blows one by them, right? Just blows them by them. They're like, they jump out because they're freaked out. You know what I mean? Which is not good already, right?
right,
Then on the next pitch, you throw a changeup and the kid tries to swing, but she's 18 years early.
yeah.
Do you continue to throw that changeup, or do you just go back to the
I
fastball?
mean, no, I think at that point we need to slow it down for the kid and work from there. I don't know, not in that instance. I
Okay,
mean,
so
in
just
that instance, I think we probably need to do some front toss with the kid and then work back to like a normal pitch.
right, totally.
You
Okay,
know what
I
I
was
mean?
just curious. I seen that once and it bugged me, and I actually got into it with
I'm
one of my
fine
kids.
with it with like, if we're like the
If it's
pitchers
compatible,
go,
we're
yes,
compatible.
if it's, yeah, 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 if it's competitive and like, then we're like, okay, we're going to do a round with change ups. Like, okay, that's totally fine. But yeah,
Right,
no,
but
not in like an instance where the kid has no idea what she's doing or he or whoever.
so I saw that one time, and the batter was up to bat, and it was right before playoffs, and they had done batting practice all day, and it was only their top three hitters, right? And it was like, okay, dude, you want to bat your bottom guys because the top ones you already know how to hit. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you, you're gonna need the rest of the team to win this game, and so, but then they put in this batter, and they blew one by her, and she jumps out of the way, and I'm like, oh no, this is good. And then all of a sudden you hear the coach go, throw a changeup, and he's standing right by her at the pitcher's mound, and I'm like, oh my god. It's like, so I was like, hey, it's gonna be a changeup. It's gonna be a changeup because I
Yeah, I
knew
mean,
right off the bat that she was gonna be way behind it, or way ahead of it, and so they did, and she was, and I was like, hey, and then he goes, throw another one. And I'm like, dude, it's gonna be a changeup again. And at this point, I'm like, really, dude? I was like, that's not the right time for that, and he kind of got mad at me. And So, and she's heck early, and then she's disgruntled. She starts to cry. And so I was like, oh, hell no. And so, I end up getting into this like vocal conversation with him, and another coach just tells me to shut up or something. And I was just like, dude, I was like, you don't do that, man. I was like, that's not teaching anyone anything. It's just showing your kid how to show up
Right.
with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was
That's,
the wrong place, wrong
it's,
time. But
it's just not helping anyone, anything.
what the craziest part of the whole thing is before the practice started, that pitcher, his daughter, her arm was hurting, her elbow, to the point where her hand was going numb. And I told him, I was like, dude, your pitcher shouldn't even be pitching right now, dude. Her hand was numb earlier today. And he goes, she's fine. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Uh,
I got
who
booted
knows?
from that practice. So, but anyway, and that was in, China. That wasn't here or anything. So, um,
No, that's
uh,
crazy. I don't, yeah.
so, I mean, that's the kind of stuff where like, you gotta, like, ego is what I was saying, is ego does not have a place in
Right.
coaching.
No, totally.
It's gotta be about the kid's benefit. So, um,
Totally,
and
totally.
anyway, so I always have to throw one story in there that irritates me. But it was hypothetical. So,
Right.
uh, but okay. Well, I appreciate you calling in, and
Yeah, no worries. That
I
was
think
good.
this was one of our better ones.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, it was good. There's a lot of good information, I thought.
And for those of you that don't know, we have a nonprofit called the Sue E. Cooley Foundation. It is based on the validity and the safety of youth sports, and we are trying to grow as best we can, um, and that we could use all the help we can get. Our website's youthsportsvalidity.org. And again, this is Haley Breakwell, and I'm Daniel Eden, and earlier that was Dylan Brewster. And thank you.